I'm Dr. B.
And I'm Matt Sibert.
And today we're going to give you the 5 steps to setting up your CBD business. But before we get into those steps, we're going to give you our interesting cannabis background.
So we've been in the cannabis industry since 2012, and when we started our first dispensary, and we were selling CBD at that time as well. And our first dispensary was a home run. We were up to 600 patients a day coming in. It was a medical dispensary. And we saw how many people we were helping with the CBD, and it was incredible. We went on to open 5 more dispensaries at that time, and it was just incredible the amount of people that we were able to help with CBD. That around January 2017 is when we decided to launch our own CBD business. And I'll let B take it from here.
That's right. We launched our first CBD company over 2 years ago. And 6 months later, we had offers to buy out that company. We also were able to ink a deal with 88,000 gas stations. Again, within 6 months of launching our first CBD company. So we're going to share with you the 5 steps that we used to make that company great. The 5 steps that we use to setting up your own CBD business. So again, we're going to talk about the 5 steps to setting up your CBD business, and you are with Dr. B and Matt Sibert. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this presentation. After watching this video, you will know the 5 steps to setting up your CBD company. You will know a powerful branding secret that 95% of CBD companies don't know about and they are not utilizing. You're going to learn about a simple but effective product launch strategy that some of the biggest brands in CBD used when they started out. You're going to know how to make your labels and website compliant so that you don't get a nasty letter from the FDA. You're also going to have the knowledge to do things right from the beginning so that you do not get sued. Here are the 5 main things we will cover. Number 1, branding, naming, and positioning. We'll go over the process of branding, naming, and positioning and why this is the most important thing to do first. Number 2, we're going to go over business setup. This is very important. Setting up your corporation, bank account, seller's permit, business license, insurance, and merchant accounts. These are things that we will be covering. Number 3, compliance. Very, very important. You must be compliant with your labels and website, or there could be trouble for your company down the road. We will teach you ways to remain compliant so that the FDA doesn't send you a nasty letter or worse.
So this is Matt, and we're going to get into branding now, which is an area that I'm very passionate about. I worked for a branding company for 3 years in Washington, D.C., so definitely have a background and a passion for branding. And you see this all the time. Most companies, they'll come up with the name and logo and website before they even have a brand identity, and this is backwards. A lot of people don't even think about a brand identity. So you need to discover that brand identity in the beginning, and you do that by finding your archetype. And so we're going to go over that in detail in our webinar that's coming up soon, and we'll show you different archetypes and how to find that. In our course, we're going to show you exactly how to find your archetype. And 95% of CBD brands are definitely not doing this branding legwork, and they have a lack of appeal to customers and future investors because of it. You know, just think about all the CBD companies that you see out there that call themselves Canna or Green, and they just don't have any personality to them, no faces on the website. And so you want to think about that when you're creating your brand from the beginning. And so we're definitely going to go way further into that in our webinar and courses.
Absolutely. Branding is huge because it helps you stand out in front of your competitors and it creates a voice for your company. This voice can resonate with your customers and ultimately lead to sales. So within this course, we're going to cover branding in detail and walk you through the process of discovering what type of brand fits your business. In the webinar, not only do we define what successful branding actually is, we also cover the importance of identifying your target audience.
And now we're going to talk about naming. So once you get your archetype and your brand identity down, you want a name that's an extension of that brand identity. And like I said before, the canna and green, that's totally overused. So you definitely do not want to go that direction, in my opinion. And, get together with your team and have a name brainstorming day and break out the whiteboard and close that door and don't leave the room until you get a bunch of good ideas, and I've seen that over and over with companies that I've started and other friends' companies, and that usually works. If you could just close that door, get some pizza, and go to town. And there's also a free naming guide from a company called Igor, and the link is in the slide there, but we'll also post that link in the comments.
You're absolutely right. Naming is huge because your name is an extension of your brand. The wrong name can offend customers, or worse, your name may get lost in a sea of similar sounding names. In our course, we teach you how to get creative with names, and we give you tips on how to find a professional name that truly represents your brand and expands your customer reach.
So now we're going to go over positioning. And of course, every week there's more and more CBD companies popping up. So you must think about how you want to position your brand in this crowded industry. And positioning is the science of controlling consumer decisions about and behaviors towards a specific brand by influencing their beliefs about your brand and your competitor's brand. And this is from the Positioning Matrix by our good friend and cohort, Marty Marion. And we'll post the link to his private group, Master Positioning Insiders, and you'll get a ton of tips in that group. And so when you're positioning your brand, you want to think about your archetype and utilize that personality. And so how can you make consumers believe that your brand is the best? Because once a consumer believes that your brand is the best, especially with CBD, they're not going to go anywhere else, and they're going to buy from you every month. So that's what you want to do, is position yourself in their mind as number one. And so you have to be creative and think about ways that you can do that. And a great example of positioning is Charlotte's Web. And I believe as of last year, they had 16% of the total CBD market. So they're the market leader. And they've been able to establish themselves as the number one brand by taking advantage of media opportunities when others were not willing, and positioning themselves as experts helping children with epilepsy. And there were actually farmers in Southern California where the Charlotte's Web people got the Charlotte's Web strain from, but they didn't want to come out of the shadows. So the Stanley brothers were the ones that positioned themselves and took advantage of that opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. Positioning is so important. And when I think about it, I always ask, where do you see yourself within this quickly growing multi-million dollar industry? And these are some things that you actually want to think about. How do you want to make a difference? Positioning is your opportunity to think outside of the box. What type of community do you want to create? Where do you see your company, and what issues are you attempting to solve for your customers? What are other CBD companies doing, and how do you compare to those companies? What will make you different, and how will you stand out in a market that is becoming more and more crowded and competitive? These are just a few questions that you have to consider. Within the course, we teach you the best way to strategically position yourself to succeed. Your business setup is absolutely huge. So there are a lot of things that one must consider. One, definitely product liability insurance is key. You must have it. Workers' comp insurance. If you have employees, there's so many things that you must think about in order to remain compliant. We go over all of these things in extensive detail within the course. Seller's permits. Obviously, you're going to need a seller's permit. And in addition, there may be local business licenses that you are required for your state.
And I'll say, too, that with the product liability insurance, sometimes the manufacturer will already have the product liability insurance, so they'll have that covered for you, but sometimes they don't. At least that's what we've seen in our experience. And you got to check your locality for the business license, because sometimes they don't even force you to get a business license. Just depends on where you live. So check into all your laws locally, and you'll be able to figure all that out.
There's so much to consider to stay out of trouble. And speaking of staying out of trouble, there are certain things that you must do to protect your business. So, we're going to give you 10 tips to protect your business. Hire a competent attorney. This is huge. You must hire a competent attorney to make sure that you are on track. Make sure that you're insured. Again, check with your state and see what the requirements are. Remaining organized. This is absolutely huge. You must remain organized. Protect your files. This goes along with being organized. Conduct quarterly audits. Separate yourself from the business and incorporate. This may seem like a no-brainer. However, there are a lot of CBD companies that are not set up in a way that protects the individual person. Trademark your name. You want to protect your business as much as possible. Use non-disclosure agreements to protect your ideas. Keep everything in writing. I am a military Air Force veteran and a former federal police officer. One of the best things that I learned in my training was if it's not in writing, it absolutely did not happen. So you want to make sure that you get everything in writing. And also, in this day and age, you must watch what you say and do. These are just 10 steps. In the course, we go over so many more tips for you, and we share our experience in making sure that you are protected.
So now we're going to go over a product launch strategy that I've seen a lot of major CBD companies initiate when they first launched. Basically, what that is starting with one SKU or product. Especially if you don't have a massive budget, then that way, if you can start with one unique product and establish your brand with that product, it's a very effective way to get in the game. And with that, you can get better margins, lower prices when you buy the product. And so that way you'll have more room to play with when you're doing discounts, when you're working with affiliates, things like that. So definitely think about coming up with a unique product, a unique formulation, and establishing your brand first with that product within your niche. And we're going to go over niches and everything in our webinar and courses. So what kind of unique formulation or delivery method what can you come up with these days? And so just really do a lot of research, see what other people are doing, and rack your brain, see what's out there in the real world. And so, like I said, going with one SKU allows you to get a lower cost and better margins. And an early example of this that we saw in our dispensary was CBD Living Water. They started with just water, and they established their brand. They got it off the ground. They got it into hundreds of stores around California, really established their brand. And now they have 18 SKUs, and they're called CBD Living, and they're definitely a major player in the industry. So it's really an interesting way to start your company out, and we'll definitely go much deeper into that information.
Absolutely. There is a formula to launching a successful CBD brand, and we will teach you how. Launching your business and knowing what steps to execute is critical for your success. Not having a strategy is like not having a roadmap. You have to create a game plan and determine how you intend to ultimately make sales and keep making them.
And so now we're going to talk about website and product label compliance. I would say today 95% of CBD companies are making claims, and for now they're getting away with it. But the FDA is really starting to ramp up enforcement, and it's going to be interesting this year to see what happens with the people that are making the ridiculous claims. So personally, I would not make claims, and we never made claims with our CBD company, Hemplogica. And like B said earlier, we had 3 offers to buy us out within 6 months of launching. So you don't have to be making all these crazy claims, and the people that would want to buy you out are not going to be wanting you to make claims either. So the FDA could send you a nasty letter, or worse, show up at your offices and seize your products. Although I haven't seen that yet, but I have seen that in other industries in the supplement game. So right now, I've seen the letters go out to CBD companies, but I haven't heard of any products being seized. But you never know. They could roll out of bed one day and decide that they want to make your day miserable. So I would not take the chance. And Charlotte's Web is a great example of a compliant website because they actually got a letter from the FDA in 2017, and they've made improvements since then. And as of they're on the radar, so they want to make sure that they're not making claims. So definitely check out cwhemp.com for an example of a compliant website. And as far as your labels, the best thing you could do is follow Indiana's labeling requirements if you want to be very conservative, because Indiana has the strictest labeling requirements in the country. And we'll share that link from Canna Law Blog that will detail all the labeling requirements in Indiana. So it's very interesting how different states have different requirements. And so Indiana is definitely the strictest. So if you follow Indiana, then you're good to go. So it's definitely something to think about, although most CBD companies are not following Indiana's guidelines these days. And so we'll go much deeper into compliance in our course. It's a really important part of running a CBD business. And you, of course, you get to decide on how compliant you want to be, but know that it might bite you in the butt one day if you're not.
Absolutely. You would be surprised how many CBD companies are taking huge risk and making illegal claims. And while this may work as a temporary strategy to get sales, it could also get you in trouble with the FDA. Within an industry with rules that change every day, you must stay abreast of what's considered compliant and what is not. The lack of compliance could cost you your entire business. You don't want to be like most CBD companies out there, because the rules change and those CBD companies are going to become obsolete. There are no other courses that are as thorough as this course. We have an entire section devoted to compliance alone. The course is 8 weeks long, and there's over 30 modules to review. Each module is going to contain additional teaching material pertinent to launching a CBD brand, along with handouts and different questions to help you better understand our material. We highly recommend that you tune into our upcoming webinar as well. And that's where we cover more course information and where we will share with you how you can incorporate and build your CBD empire. So now my buddy Ricky is going to give you the details about our upcoming webinar and where we will be sharing more CBD secrets with you.